Ezra Klein actually, I don't know if he like covered me favorably here, with the exception of like the first 20 seconds where I'm talking about like Nick Fuentes and shit. But yeah, Ezra Klein talked about Zohran Mamdani not being an anti-Semitic person.
Or just being a normal person. You had not heard of Nick Fuentes until this month. Chances are you've heard of him now.
Nick Fuentes is odious and despicable.
He's what I would call a racist. He's just this troll.
Nick Fuentes has said a long list of very vile things.
Big time. He's a booger-eating, white supremacist Holocaust denier.
The reason everybody's talking about Fuentes is Tucker Carlson, who is arguably at this point the most significant media figure on the American right, hosted Fuentes, a person he has feuded with in the past, for a very friendly 2-hour chat.
I wanted to meet you. I've heard about you.
I've heard about you.
About the problem of Israel, about the problem of American Jews and whether or not they fit in this country or their loyalties are elsewhere.
If you're China first, you should live in China. If you're Mexico first, you should live in Mexico. If you're Israel first, maybe you should go live in Israel.
It was the kind of conversation you would not have heard among mainstream figures on the American right.
See, that something you need to understand there is that Nick Fuentes is a very dangerous propagandist and a very good propagandist for that reason. Because while he hates Jews, he's anti-Semitic, what he is saying there, one, makes total sense to the average person, and two, what he's saying there is not even anti-Semitic, okay? And he's also utilizing right-wing sentiment to make this point. Tucker Carlson does an even better job than Nick Fuentes on this issue, because Tucker Carlson does not actually say the quiet part out loud ever. Like he has way more messaging discipline than Nick Fuentes, and that's partially because he has way more media training than Nick Fuentes, right? He's a professional media demon. That's his background. He's been doing this for almost as long as Nick Fuentes has been alive at this point. So of course he's going to be better at that. That's why I think he's like very dangerous in general, very scary in general. But like, that's why, for example, people were like, oh, how dare you? Like, people tried to say that I was being anti-Semitic to Ben Shapiro for saying, for clipping my, I don't have any patriotism in my heart for any country, really. When he clipped it and was like complaining about it, I said, I don't have any patriotism for any country. I don't really understand patriotism. You, on the other hand, are first and foremost patriotic to Israel. And what was, interesting about that is like, people were like, oh, you're doing dual loyalty tropes. It's like, no, dumbass. When you say that's a dual loyalty trope, you sound ridiculous. And the reason why you sound ridiculous is because there's a difference between assuming any Jew is going to be loyal to Israel versus Ben Shapiro, who objectively communicates that he is invested in Israel first and foremost above pretty much anything else. Okay? That's it. Point to a single moment where Ben Shapiro has ever deviated from the pro-Israel position. Oftentimes, even when it's against not just the American government's interest, but when it's against the interests of the American citizenry, okay? Everything that I advocate for, people try to say, is actually negative to the Americans. But that is not the case, okay? If I hated America, I'm a relatively wealthy person. I can live pretty much anywhere I wanted to live. If I hated America that much, I'd just off and leave, okay? I'd be like, all right, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. The reason why I stay in America and the reason why I live in America and the reason why I'm constantly complaining about America is because I want America to be better for Americans, okay? For everyone that lives inside of the boundaries of the U.S. state. That's it. And these guys will forever hate me for it. When I say, God damn it, America is like so violent as a country, okay? When I say that, when I say like, oh God, it's like, it's impossible to of America right now, I'm talking about America not meeting its promise, okay? Yeah, and I said, I'm not a patriotic person in general. You are patriotic for Israel first and foremost, which is true. And the same thing happened with, Miriam Adelson. People were like, Miriam Adelson is an Israeli citizen and patriotic to Israel, okay? Miriam Adelson cares more about what happens in Israel or America's continued allegiance to Israel than she does about Americans in general. Now, of course, Miriam Adelson doesn't care about Americans in general because she is a... Oh, this button is off. Thank you for calling it out, chatter. The reason why she doesn't care about Americans in general is because she's a billionaire, first and foremost. If you're a billionaire, you don't care about the working class in general. That's your class position. That's all that's all you ever openly state. But then outside of that, the reason why it's not dual loyalty when you point to Mary Madelson being exceptionally pro-Israel is because she is exceptionally pro-Israel. Like, what are we doing? We can't just say the truth. There is a difference between the racialized sentiment that leans into complete reactionary tropes that are made up about black people, about brown people, and then constantly going along with that kind of narrative. And then when people say like, "Oh, dude, what the f are you saying? That's racist," you go, "Oh, what? I can't say the truth." Versus unironically talking about a person who openly is saying that they're pro-Israel. And if you can't actually communicate these things that most people can see with their eyes and hear with their ears and analyze with their brains, even the dumbest person on the planet can see that, like, you are not going to be able to successfully, you are not going to be able to have build a successful political movement in general. Anyway, here was the point that I wanted to show you with Zohran Mamdani and Ezra Klein. I'm glad that he is like coming to this side.
Why should we be talking about what this, Rumble influencer thinks about the Jews when the left is electing Zohran Mamdani, right? When there's been these years of debate about anti-Semitism on the left. I'll say this super clearly. I've met Zohran Mamdani, voted for Zohran Mamdani. I don't think there's anything anti-Semitic about him at all. But I think you see in the way he has been treated, and then also what is happening on the right, a distinction that is worth understanding, a structural distinction. That anti-Zionism on the left often pushes towards what I would call liberalism, a belief that all people should have equal rights, that there should be universalism. There's a different version of it if you're more sort of socialist and Marxist.
Right.
But the left tends to push towards a universalism. And
yes,
a lot of the anger at Israel.
Yes, even though Ezra Klein and I see the world in dramatically different ways, this is why I always say he's smart enough to, one, read the room, and two, he's smart enough to make this honest assessment, this honest analysis. Many liberals refuse to do this, okay, which is part of the reason why I actually appreciate Ezra Klein at times, even though I disagree with him vehemently in other instances, okay? That's it. That's true. It's true. If liberalism is about equality, which is supposed to be like the foundational tenets of liberalism, then yes, leftists and liberals are aligned on those principles, or they are at least supposed to be aligned on those principles. Liberals, of course, do not see the equality destroying aspects of capitalism, and they safeguard it, and they basically blind themselves to the ways that this economic organization of the economy prioritizes profit over the interests of people, right? But ultimately, in theory, that's what liberals care about. That's what liberalism is supposed to represent.
This, I think, much of it merited, is the way it betrays universalism for the Palestinians living under its control.
Sure.
On the right, it's pushing towards ethno-state politics.
Right.
That the fundamental argument and a way in which modern Israel's tried to create new coalitions is to say, hey, we're all ethno-states here.
Right.
But once you buy into the ethno-state frame, then the fact that you see Jews as an ethnic other in your society pushes somewhere very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pushes towards ideas of expulsion, pushes towards ideas that they're a fifth column within, that they are leading your country to betray its actual interests in order to, that they have dual loyalties.
Right.
But there is this weird thing where there's been a rise of like Jewish figures or Jewish aligned figures who want to embrace ethno-state politics.
Sure.
I mean, you have like Yoram Hazony, Jewish, lives in Jerusalem, the founder of NatCon, going to the NatCon conference, which he started, and saying, look, you have to like the Jews to be a national conservative.
Thank you. Oh my God. I mean, this is like the most extreme version of it, the most out there version of it, the most honest version of it, right? And it's one that Israel openly rides for, which is why like people like Ezra have to be like, this is, as a liberal, as a card-carrying liberal, this doesn't abide by the universalist principles I believe in. But it extends beyond these guys. It extends beyond these figures. It's not simply coalition building for Benjamin Netanyahu. There is not a lot of daylight between Benjamin Netanyahu and Itamar Ben-Gvir. Maybe there are domestic differences, right? Within this coalition, like domestic policy differences when it comes to like social issues and whatnot. But ultimately, when it comes to the ethno-religious superiority and the ethnic cleansing, Israeli society is not so divided, right? Zionists are not divided on these things because they have a firm commitment to advancing the Greater Israel Project. They have a firm commitment to basically destroying all Palestinians because they see that as a hurdle against advancing the Greater Israel Project. It's not that like there isn't a lot of distinction between even liberal Zionists and the ultra Zionists out there, right? And a lot of people refuse to recognize that. Ezra Klein would disagree with me. He himself is a liberal Zionist, so he will most likely disagree with me. I would be very interested in having this discussion with him because I think he is an honest actor in general, or at least like presents himself as such when he's having these sorts of interesting conversations. That's why I always say, like, I think it'd be a unique conversation. He's done it with Ta-Nehisi Coates, right? Twice now. And basically, the reason why I say that is because, like, well, he's still saying, like, oh, there's like really right-wing attitudes in Israel, and it's a part of the coalition that they've created. It's just like one of the dangers of one of the unfortunate consequences of like trying to operate within this democratic system, right? Is that you're going to have these sorts of far-right figures in your coalition at times in order to maintain power. But the reality of the matter is the liberal coalition on the opposing side of Benjamin Netanyahu also agrees with Benjamin Netanyahu when it comes to Gaza. The liberal coalition also agrees with Benjamin Netanyahu when it comes to attacking international organs of justice. Attacking international organs of justice when they actually call out Israel for potentially doing war crimes. So there is not a lot of difference in opinion when it comes to the issues that matter. Just as there's not a lot of difference in opinion when it comes to the issues that matter within the Republican Party and the Democratic Party when it comes to healthcare being a privatized endeavor. It has to be for profit. It is uniparty. Do you understand?
But there's nobody ever said, and I this is for my Jewish friends, nobody ever said that to be a good Nat Con, you had to love Israel. Nobody ever said that to be a good Nat Con, you had to love Jews.
And so the one point of anger I have that a lot of people on the right who I think have been playing footsie with this for a long time is that once you embrace the ethno-state concept, this is where that leads.
Yes.
Well,
yes. I'm glad he's like saying this. Okay. I'm glad he's saying this on New York Times. I cannot imagine. I cannot see a world where one of the most prestigious, not from our perspective, just in general, right? One of the most prestigious commentary people at the most prestigious newspaper in the United States of America would openly, as a Jewish American too, say, of course, if you lean into Israel as an ethno-state project, then that opens up the floodgates of ethno-nationalism of different sorts, including the incredibly scary version of it that we have seen, right? This is something that I have said for years, right? I say I hate Nick Fuentes for the same reasons why I hate Itamar Ben-Gvir, because they are the same. I hate fascism, all the same. It doesn't matter if it's the Aryan fascism of the Nazis or the Jewish fascism of Israel. It's fascism nonetheless. And if you are an anti-fascist, if you're a principled anti-fascist, if you abhor racism, if you abhor ethno-nationalist politics, then of course you are going to have the same level of smoke for both of these things. And it is the Zionist wing of American politics that has played a formative role in the anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish wing of American politics growing. Are you paying them $20K to use your lines now? Yes, exactly. I paid Ezra Klein, so he says these things.